Okay. Okay, welcome everyone. This is the first real live class, the first one. I did a little demo sort of class a week ago, but this was the first real live class. So thanks for joining me. This is really exciting. If you have some yoga props, you can have them close by. So blocks, straps, bolsters, whatever you have, blankets, that kind of thing. And I will maybe guide to use them sometimes, but it's not necessary to have them. So if you don't have them, don't worry. We will start either seated, or if you feel like you need to lie down, you can. It is the morning, but if you're watching this recorded, then it may be a different time, so you may want to lay down. If it's the morning though, I really suggest kind of sitting upright just to start to lift some of your energy up a bit. But get yourself comfortable and shift around a little bit. Excuse me. And if it's comfortable to close your eyes, you can close your eyes. If not, soften your gaze downward slightly. And take a couple of clearing breaths here, perhaps in through your nose and out through your mouth. Just becoming aware of your, excuse me, your body here in this moment. So if you're on your seat, noticing your sit bones and your legs. And as you're breathing in, breathing maybe from the base of your spine, maybe notice your breath moving into your belly or into your chest. Excuse me. And as you're breathing, you could perhaps find a little length through the top of your head, upwards towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, keeping a little length, but softening the edges a little bit, like letting your shoulders relax, feeling your sit bones connected to the ground still. And if your mind is particularly active in this moment, perhaps counting as you're breathing, or saying a little mantra, or saying an affirmation, a word on the breath in, something you'd like to draw in, and then exhale, something you'd like to release and let go. Just to bring all your awareness into the present moment and into your breathing. And for the next few breaths, perhaps notice the very top of your inhale. There's a slight pause. And then noticing the bottom of your exhale. And again, that slight moment of nothing, that slight pause where there's no in-breath and there's no exhale, there's no inhale. And if you like, you could really just lengthen it just a tiny bit if that's comfortable. If not, just maybe noticing that just microsecond of a pause. And just as you're ready, bringing your hands either together at your heart or your hands over your heart for a moment, taking a couple deep breaths into your heart space. If there's a particular intention or an energy you'd like to draw towards you this morning, bringing that into your awareness right now. And then as you're ready, we'll release our hands. If your eyes are closed, You could open up your eyes, and we're going to come off of our seat and move into child's pose. So let's take a few breaths in child's pose just to lengthen out our spine slightly. You could make this a little bit more active with your upper body, perhaps lifting your hands or lifting your palms coming up to your fingertips with your knees a bit wider, and allowing your shoulder blades to soften onto your back. Or you could allow your arms to rest here. So that's your choice. Maybe taking a couple full deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth, or a couple big breaths here. And then as you're ready, we'll rise to tabletop. You see your hands underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. And hopefully everybody can hear me okay here. Just maybe just unmute yourself if you can't. I'll make sure my voice is a bit louder. So we'll start to move here, cat and cow, arching and rounding through your spine. And I always like to offer any organic movement that feels good here. So you perhaps maybe want to move a little bit more dynamically. So it could be some big circles. It could be moving your hips side to side. Could be any other movement that feels good here. So allowing your body to be a little bit more fluid and a little bit more intuitive in your movement here. Sometimes closing your eyes and just allowing your body to free flow helps a little bit as well. And we'll take a couple more breaths here. And as you're ready, coming back to the center. And perhaps walking your hands forward. This is where it might be handy if you have a couple of yoga blocks. I'll show you with blocks as well. So you could place your hands on top of your blocks or even your wrists, and then melt your heart here. So your arms are lifted. I'm actually going to move my knees back slightly. So I'm going to keep my hips somewhat over my knees here, melting my heart. Now, if you don't have blocks or that feels like too much, you could pop up to your fingertips here again, melting your heart. And taking a few breaths here into your upper back, and then exhale to soften your shoulder blades onto your back. And as you're ready, we'll bring our palms back to the floor. If you have your blocks there, just moving them off to the side, and then we'll make our way into downward facing dog. And for anyone that isn't feeling like downward facing dog today, for whatever reason, child's pose or coming to a standing forward fold is also a good option. And if you're feeling really stiff, as I am today, you could walk it out a little bit here. Anytime you need a clearing breath, taking a full breath into your nose and out through your mouth, allowing some of that extra tension or heavy energy to release and let go. And then just in the next few breaths, no rush, we'll make our way into a standing forward fold. So you could walk or step your feet forward and just allow your upper body to hang, or you could rest your elbows above your knees if you like instead to support your back. I'm going to grab opposite elbows this morning, but you can feel free to let your arms hang here as well. And maybe trying to release the weight of your head, just letting any tension out of your neck, your upper back, back of your head. Let's move with our breath a little bit here. So hands to your shins. Let's take an inhale to lift up halfway, and then exhale to fold in. And we'll move a couple more times like that with your own breath at your own pace. Inhale to lift up halfway, exhale to fold back in. And we'll make our way up to standing. You could take one full inhale to rise. You could take a couple breaths to ragdoll up to standing. That's your choice. And as you rise, coming to stand, maybe rolling your shoulders back and down a couple times here, coming to mountain pose. So before we begin to move here, rock a little bit from your heels to your toes, and maybe your right foot to your left foot, and notice both feet really connected to the floor here. So really feel that firm foundation of your legs and your feet connected to the ground. And again, a little length through your spine. Let's take an inhale to reach your arms up. And let's exhale, let's forward fold again. Take an inhale to lift up halfway. And let's exhale, fold in, and let's step our left foot back. So take a long stride lunge. We're going to start with our back knee on the floor. We're going to rise up to a low lunge here. So settling into your front knee, maybe perhaps moving your back knee back. Hands can be on your hips here, or you can reach your arms up overhead. You can always bring your hands closer to your heart or closer to the floor at any time. We're going to take a couple more breaths here. And just as you're ready, we're going to release our hands down, staying in the lunge, taking your left hand across to the outside of your right leg, right hand to your hip. Let's turn towards your front side, so the right side. You could stay here, or perhaps moving your right hand back behind you. And then as you're ready, let's unwind and let's step back to downward facing dog here. Maybe taking a clearing breath. Remember, you can always take child's pose instead, or you can pop down to tabletop. And then from downward facing dog or tabletop, let's step our left foot forward. Back knee comes down, let's rise back up, low lunge on the other side. Settling in here, maybe hands to your hips, or perhaps reaching your arms up overhead. Taking a moment to connect into your breath, relaxing your shoulder blades onto your back. Let's take 2 more breaths here. And when you're ready, we're going to release our arms down. Let's bring our left hand to our left hip, right hand crosses to the outside of your left leg, and let's turn to the left here. So you can pause here. If it feels like it's too much for your shoulder to reach back, keep your hand on your hip. And you can also maybe reach both arms out or keep your hand connected. And then as you're ready, let's unwind, placing your hands back down. We're going to step back to downward dog here again. So I'm going to offer up vinyasa, and you can choose to move through vinyasa with me, or you can stay where you are, or you can come into child's pose if you're in down dog. When your next inhale comes around, we're going to come forward to plank pose if you're coming through the vinyasa. And with your knees up or your knees down, let's lower to the floor. Keeping your shoulders back. Let's take a slight little cobra here. So using core strength, you can lift your hands away from the floor a little bit. Feel your core engage, wrap your shoulders back. And then as you're ready, moving back to downward facing dog. Taking a deep breath in here and then a deep breath out. Either from tabletop or down dog, let's step our right foot forward. It's time for warrior one. So we're going to place our back heel to the ground, angling our back foot slightly forward. Hips facing forward as you rise up. So you're going to turn your body to face forward. Keep your back heel anchored. Let's bend into our front knee here. Shoulders back. Couple options, a little bit of a heart opener. Cactus arms, I'm gonna turn to the sides to see what that looks like. You're gonna face forward. Or you can have your arms overhead, or you can even just let your arms rest beside you, heart opener this way. Let's begin to straighten out our front leg. Hands to heart center, hands on your hips. Let's hinge forward and down. If you have blocks, you could take your hands to blocks or to the floor. If you feel like your back foot's lifting, take a slightly shorter stride here. So you can walk your back foot in a bit. You could also fold in. Taking a couple clearing breaths. Maybe in through your nose and out through your mouth. You could also stay lifted up halfway here if you find that folding is just too much for you or it bothers you in any way. A couple more breaths here. So with or without your blocks, let's walk our hands forward. So extend your arms forward and lift your back heel. And then start to move your weight forward into your front foot, lift your back leg. So you should feel light in your hands. The weight is in your front foot. Hips are square, turning your toes down. Let's start to bend our elbows perhaps and fold here. And as you're ready, we're gonna step into a forward fold at the front of our mats. Take a clearing breath. Take an inhale to lift up halfway. Exhale to fold. Let's take a slow ragdoll. Let's come all the way up. Come up to standing. Shoulders back. So you can keep your feet slightly parted here, or you can bring your feet together, your choice. We're going to bring our hands to our hips and perhaps sitting back. So moving your hips back and down into chair pose. Inner legs are moving towards each other. Just notice your knees not splaying wide. If your feet are parted, just keeping your knees in line with your ankles. Hands can be on your front legs. Tailbone draws down. Feel your lower belly support you here, or you could reach your arms up or forward. Connecting to your breath. Take one more inhale, and then exhale, let's forward fold. Take an inhale to lift up halfway. Exhale to fold. Now let's step our left foot back for a high lunge, bending into your front knee. You could lower your back knee if you like for a low lunge again. Rising up here. Shoulders back. You could reach your arms up overhead if you like. Feel your back heel lift. Feel your back leg nice and strong and settle into your front knee a bit, perhaps. Take one more inhale and then exhale. Hands come down. Keep your left hand down. Walk your right foot a bit wider. Let's turn and revolve. Open towards the right side, maybe reaching your arm up or hand on your hip. And then as you're ready, hands come down. We're going to step back and lift our right leg up. Maybe open your hip a little bit here to the side, or both feet down for down dog. And then as you're ready, coming back to down dog, where you can move through a vinyasa. You could hang out in child's pose or stay in downward dog. Just a couple more breaths wherever you are. All right, neither from down dog or tabletop, we're gonna step our left foot forward. We're coming to warrior one, so back heel comes down. We're gonna rise and come up, hips facing forward, back heel's planted. So feel the connection of your back leg, and then maybe bend into your front knee here. Shoulders back. You can come back to goddess arms, or you could maybe take a clasp with your hands behind you, or arms overhead. Couple more breaths here. And then as you're ready, we're going to release, straighten out our front leg, hinge forward and down. For those of you that use blocks, you can walk your blocks back so your hands are underneath your shoulders, folding in here perhaps, maybe even adjusting your stride. Maybe a couple clearing breaths, letting your head release perhaps. And let's lift up halfway, extend our arms forward, start to lift your back heel and your back foot. And hips are square, toes pointing down, bending maybe your elbows to fold in, or you could stay lifted halfway if that's enough for you here. And then just when you're ready, we're going to step forward to the front of our mats. Take a big exhale. Allow yourself to fold in. Take an inhale to lift up halfway. Exhale to fold. And then let's rise. Let's come all the way up. All right, so chair pose again. Feet together, feet slightly parted here. Sitting your hips back and down, tailbone draws down, heart lifted, shoulders back. Your hands can stay on your hips or on your legs, or you can reach them forward or up. Connecting to your breath. Take one more breath in, and then exhale, let's forward fold here. Parting your feet slightly, take an inhale to lift up halfway. Exhale, fold. Let's step our right foot back. High lunge, or remember, you can always take a low lunge here. Hips facing forward, back legs charged. And as you're ready, maybe reaching your arms up. And let's bring our hands down. Right hand stays down, left foot moves a bit wider. Let's revolve open towards the left. You can have your hand on your hip or reaching up here. And as you're ready, hands come down. Let's step back to three-legged dog, perhaps lifting our left leg, opening the knee, trying to square your shoulders back towards the floor. And as you're ready, both feet down, your choice. Move through vinyasa, pause in child's pose, or pause in downward dog. We'll take 5 or 6 breaths, so you can also move through vinyasa and then take a moment to pause here. All right. So either from down dog or tabletop, let's step our right foot forward. Back heel comes down for warrior 2 this time. Let's rise. I'm just going to make a little adjustment here. All right, so you can extend your arms out if you like. You can also look forward. So we're going to really focus on the connection of our back leg, back foot, settling into our front knee, but then letting our upper body lift upright. Shoulders relaxed, a little bit more fluidity in your upper body. Excuse me. Let's bring our back hand down. Front palm faces up, and we're going to reach up and maybe back. You could look forward, you could look up, you could look down, whatever's most comfortable here. Let's straighten out our front leg, finding a little bit more length here perhaps. And then let's reach forward for triangle. Hand to the floor, to a block, or to your shin. You could look up, you could look forward, you could look down, whatever's most comfortable here. And then let's rise and come all the way up to stand. Let's turn our feet in. So lining up your feet, wide-legged forward fold. Option here to fold in and place your hands on the floor. If you'd like to open through your shoulders, clasp your hands, take a breath in here, and then lift your arms, lift your hands as you fold. So either here, or you could bring your hands down. We're gonna fold in, so at any point, for a number of breaths, so at any point you could release your hands, the bind of your hands behind you, especially if you're creating more tension in your shoulders. And then let's rise to lift up halfway. Hands to your hips or to your upper legs. Let's come all the way up to stand. Let's turn our right foot back forward. Bend back into your front knee. And let's take a modified or a version of side angle, resting our elbow to our front leg, shoulders back. Feel the strong connection downwards with your back leg, your back foot. And then maybe stretch up, or from your back foot, feel a reach out through your fingertips here. Shoulders back, heart lifted. So we're going to transition towards the floor and lift our back leg up. So bringing your hands down, lift your back heel, maybe take another step or two forward. Walk your hands forward. You could use your blocks here as well. And this time we're going to turn our hip open, turn our toes to the side. So we're working towards half moon pose here. So if you'd like to bring one hand to your hip, you can. Before you lift your arm, shoulders come back, heart's lifted. So you're just lifting your arm without any effort here. It's harder to talk and to look at yourself doing this. So don't look at your screen and don't talk. You'll be a bit better. All right, hands come down. Let's step our back foot all the way back this time. And let's step back to down dog. You can choose to move through vinyasa. You can come to down dog or child's pose. Clearing breath in through your nose, out through your mouth perhaps. And this time, let's step our left foot forward. Right heel comes down. We're rising up for warrior two. Little adjustments. I always feel like you always need a little wardrobe adjustment. All right, so strong back leg, settle in, lengthen up, shoulders relaxed. And when you're ready, back hand comes down to your back leg, front palm turns up. Let's reach up, maybe reaching back a bit here. Shoulders back. And let's straighten out our front leg. Let's lift them up, maybe back a bit more. And let's come forward for a Trikonasana triangle pose. Shoulders back. So technically your upper body's in line with your front leg here. If you are not, it's okay. But you could also lift up. Your triangle pose could be more like this. And let's rise, come all the way up. Turn your feet towards the long edge of your mat. So we'll take another wide-legged forward fold, your choice what you're gonna do with your arms. Let's take a breath in. And then exhale, forward fold. So for this one, I'm gonna offer a little bit of movement. If your hands are on the floor, sometimes it feels nice to shift, bend into one knee, shift to that side a little bit, bend to the other knee. Or sometimes I like to lift one heel and the other. My ankles tend to be really tight, so this often feels really good. But you can also stay static, just hang out in the center, nice and still. And as you're ready, coming back to the center, lifting up about halfway, we're gonna rise and come back up to stand. And then let's turn our left foot back again. Bend back into our left knee. So we're coming into side angle with our elbow lightly resting. So think of like a feather, or you're pushing away so that your heart opens. And there's this long line of energy from your back foot out through your fingertips, either reaching up or over. Shoulders back. Some deep breaths into your heart space here, perhaps. Now we're going to look down. We're going to move towards half moon. So back foot can step forward a bit. You're going to walk your hands forward, lift your back leg up. And you can use blocks here if you like. Maybe your right hand comes to your right hip. If so, your shoulders roll back, and then maybe reaching up, or not. And then just whenever you're ready, we're gonna bring both hands down, step our back foot back, step back to downward dog. Or you can choose to move through vinyasa. You can hang out in child's pose. You can stay in down dog. Take a few breaths wherever it is that you are. And then maybe take a moment to pause in child's pose, or maybe even grab a little bit of water if you need. Okay, so either from down dog or tabletop, let's take a step forward with our right foot. And I'm actually going to set myself up with some blocks. So this is a good pose for blocks if you have them. So we're going to come into half Hanumanasana, or half splits for those of you, and it's not the splits. So the idea, in depending on how far apart your feet are, doesn't matter. You want your hips to stay square. So you want to avoid dropping one hip down and having the other one lifted, trying to work your hips square. Even if you're working towards the full splits, you want your upper body to eventually be lifted upright. In this variation today, we're going to get a bit more of a stretch going. So making sure you can square your hips. Your back knee might be closer towards your front foot. Flex the pinky toe side of your toes back and your other toes. And then take your thumb into your right hip crease and draw it back and down slightly. Now, you may already be feeling a lot here. I'm already feeling a lot. You could hang out here. For those of you that still could feel a bit more, keep your hips square, keep the toes flexed, begin to fold over your front leg. So you're really getting a nice, hopefully big stretch through the back of your leg here. I'm just going to take a couple more breaths wherever you are. Now, we're going to transition into another pose. So being able to bring your front foot down, which may mean bringing your back knee forward a bit. Your front foot's flat. Turn your front foot out, walk it wider, and your hands come to the inside of your front foot. So this pose is called lizard. Actually, I'll turn to face you guys here. You can see me. So here. And then same thing here. So this hip's drawing down, which is fine, but try not to collapse it down. So maybe create a little bit of a lift up through your core. Oh, here comes the cat. Hey, buddy. This is your first cameo this season. Hello. Okay. It's good, it's good. And then from here you could fold in, not with a cat butt in your face. Hey. Hello. So you could fold in here on blocks or onto the floor. I'm going to turn back to face the side. When you see my leg on the side here, my front knee's over my ankle. If your front knee's popping forward or on some weird angle out to the side, try to draw back and then angle your foot wider or something so your knee's right over top of your ankle. So we want to have pressure on our knees. Hey, you're right in the camera view, buddy. Okay. So we're going to spend a few more breaths here, but just know that in any movement I'm offering, or any stillness that we're sitting in, if you need to come out sooner, please listen to your body. Please come out when you need to. Okay, so we are going to make our way out, maybe moving your hips back, maybe drawing your leg back here, and maybe creating a bit of movement, or you could sit in child's pose. Some of you may want to walk it out in down dog. And then coming back to tabletop here, extending your right leg back, turning your toes open to the side for a moment, popping up to your fingertips, and then taking your toes back down. Now you could take a balance here, left arm reaches forward. You could also reach back, grab the top of your right foot with your left hand, and then open towards the left, taking a twist. Taking your time to release. Take a couple breaths here, or maybe pausing again in child's pose. And then we're going to step our left foot forward. So left foot steps forward. We're going to start in half Hanumanasana, so half splits. So one side can feel very different. Trying to square your hips here, maybe taking your thumb into your left hip crease and draw it back and down. You'll notice a bit more here. And if you turn your pinky toe side, you may feel even more. And then you could stay here. You could stay lifted, or you could fold in, just depending on how this side feels. If you're on blocks, you could also just lower the blocks down a little bit. Clearing breaths. Noticing any sensation in your body, especially the back of your leg perhaps. And then as you're ready, we're going to bend into our front leg. That might mean popping your back knee forward a bit, walking your foot wider for lizard pose. So from here, again, blocks or no blocks, you don't need to lower to forearms. You can even walk your hands forward a bit. And again, your left outer hip's drawing back, right hip forwards here. There's a slight pulling in. We don't want to drop everything towards the floor. Well, you can, but we want to try to engage the front leg slightly here. Let's take some breaths, settling in. And again, if you need to come out sooner, come on out sooner. And then when you're ready, we're going to move back, tabletop. You can make a bit of movement here for your hips if you need any kind of hip circles or create a bit of space here before we come into that balance. Excuse me. Option to extend your leg back, open your hip to the side for a second, just getting that hip open, turning your toes back down. So you could stay in the balance, reaching your arm forward, or you can reach back, grab your foot, and turn open towards the right this time. And as you're ready to release, maybe child's pose, maybe down dog. Some of you may want vinyasa. All right, so we are going to make our way up onto our seat. So wherever it is that you are, taking a moment to come to your seat. If you have a sitting block or rolled blanket or a bolster, please come to sit up on something. All right. So you could be sitting up on something here. I'm going to start with a wide-legged forward fold. If you don't have space in your place that you're at, you could have your feet extended forward instead. Okay, so I know we're all in different spaces here. So if you don't have space for wide-legged forward fold, extend your legs straight forward. Okay, let's take a lengthener here. Fingertips behind you, lift up through your spine. For some of you, you may stay here. Let's flex our toes today. You may stay here and press through your fingertips and lean in a bit. For those of you that can fold in a little bit more, you can also use blocks here. So as you're folding forward, you could have a block for your forehead or your forearms or whatever works, if you like, okay? And then we're gonna try to take some of the rounding out of our spine. I'm gonna turn to the side for a moment so you can see what that looks like. Now you may not be able to feel this in your own body, this rounding. So this looks like a rounding here. If you could lift your heart and find this extension through your spine. So as opposed to being this way and hunched, you're drawing your shoulders back onto your back and then drawing forward. Perhaps. I know that's looks easy the way I just did that, but not so. So maybe fingertips here to lean in. Let's spend about 4 or 5 more breaths and see if you could really let go on the exhale. Maybe your chin comes towards your chest. Maybe your shoulders soften a bit more. And just as you're ready, we're going to rise. You can bring your feet maybe to the floor, bring them wide, and perhaps release your knees a few times side to side, letting that go a bit. All right, let's see where we're at. Okay, so one more seated movement, one more fold, and feet together, knees wide for bound angle. And if you have a rolled up blanket or blocks, your knees are up really high here. You could support your legs with some blocks in your outer hips. If not, just put those aside. And same thing here, we're maybe gonna lengthen first. So maybe just your fingertips behind you to lean forward, or you're gonna fold in a bit more, bring your chin towards your chest, connecting into your breath here. Just take a few more breaths here. See if you can let go of something. Maybe your jaw, maybe your mind, your busyness in your mind. And then as you're ready, we'll rise to come up. Options here, you could extend your legs forward, maybe shake your feet out, or you can come back to lean back and release your knees side to side. It always feels like a nice release for my hips here. Always nice. So we're gonna make our way onto our back. Some of you have props, some of you probably don't. So if you have something, you can take it with you. I'm gonna give some options, but you generally will know, I think, the options that you like to take. So feel free to modify it again, as I said before, or adjust. So you're gonna roll onto our back in any way you wanna get there. And let's start with maybe a gentle rocking. So you can bring one knee or both knees in and rock a bit from side to side, or make some circles, just feeling your sacrum and your lower back connected to the ground. Maybe taking a couple clearing breaths, letting your shoulder blades relax. So we're going to create a little bit more opening for the front of our body. And as we come up into bridge pose, you want to maybe draw your shoulder blades flat on your back or on the floor. And I will show with a prop first. If you don't have a prop, you don't have to use that, of course, because you don't have it, but you could use a bolster too, or a rolled up blanket. So with the hard block, you could slip it underneath your sacrum and have a moment to let your hips settle. See how that feels. If it feels pinchy, you're going to want to bring that out. Some of you may be able to flip that block up a little higher. And again, you're just settling your hips for a bit more of a passive bridge pose. So still opening the front of our bodies, shoulder blades still draw underneath you, maybe arms to the side if you like. If you prefer to bring a little bit of strength into the pose, you'll skip the block, you'll press down and lift your hips up, and maybe interlace your hands, walk your shoulders underneath you, and then let your throat be open. So a little lift of your chin perhaps as well. So either one will take maybe about 4 or 5 more breaths. And then just whenever you're ready, you're going to either release the block or release your hips back down. Some of you may want to extend your legs forward. Some of you may want to bring your knees back up into your chest. And let's create a bit of movement. So while we're here, I'm going to come into happy baby pose. You can choose to either hold your knees wide if you like. If it's not comfortable here, you could come back to the bound angle posture. You can either hold underneath your knees, you can grab a hold of your ankles or your shins, or at the outside of your feet. And you're drawing your shoulders back. And there's a slight little engagement here, so maybe flexing your toes And then we're going to try to take our lower back down towards the floor. So if you feel like you're lifting your lower back really high here, bring your feet forward a little bit and lower your sacrum down to the floor. So try not to lift your back, just to get your feet lifted here. Shoulders rolling back and down. A couple clearing breaths. Now let's release our right foot down. Take your left foot to the top of your right leg for figure 4, where you could move your leg forward, or take your right knee towards your chest here. Couple more breaths. And then let's switch sides. You may want to release a little bit here if that needs a release. And either keeping your foot on the ground, you can even bring your foot up to a block if you have one, and or bring your left knee towards your chest. As you're ready, we're going to release that side. Maybe extend both legs forward. You could also take your arms up overhead. Give yourself a full body stretch. And then we'll take a twist. So I'm going to start today with a 2-knee twist over to the right. So my hips will move to the left first, knees over to the right. And I'm going to extend my arm out, but if it's not comfortable for your shoulder, you can rest your hand wherever it feels comfortable or use a prop to support you here. And then let's come back to the center. And let's twist to the other side. So when you're twisting here, trying to bring your feet and your legs down, so you may have to maybe adjust a bit or move your feet in a position where your legs can relax to the ground. A couple more big breaths into the side of your body, into the back of your body. And as you're ready, we'll come back to the center. One more movement in the center. I'm going to bring my knees up towards my chest one more time. And then we're going to prepare for Shavasana. So this is an opportunity for you to pause and to just allow this practice to integrate as well. So we do need this time of integration. So if you're at home watching this recorded, just taking the time to pause here. If you have a bolster or a blanket that you might need, feel free to use anything to support you. And then we're going to extend out. You can lie on your back, you can lie on your side. For those of you that feel uncomfortable lying on your back or side, make your way back up to your seat here. Give yourself a couple clearing breaths. And give yourself this time to just be and to surrender. Begin to slowly deepen your breath. Create a little bit of movement with your body. Give yourself a full body stretch. You could either place your feet on the floor, bring your knees up and towards your chest. And just taking your time, rolling onto your side perhaps for a few breaths before coming up to your seat. And just as you're ready coming up to your seat, again, maybe bringing your hands together at heart center or placing your palms over the center of your heart. Taking a couple breaths of gratitude, maybe reflecting on your intention for the practice here today. And I'd like to thank you for being here as well today. Namaste, everyone. Thank you. So I'm just going to stop the recording, and then anyone on the live call, we can have a quick chat if anyone wants. So